Welcome to the Mentorship Podcast, the show where the mentoree becomes the mentor. I'm so excited to have Carina Abrams on the show today. Someone I've a dear friend of mine, a mentoree who has become one of my mentors, and that's what this show is about. This person, I call her the mama bear because not only does she take care of me, but she also takes care of all the other mentorees and mentors in my life. So I'm so excited to have you on here. One of my favorite people in the world. Carina, welcome to the Mentorship Podcast.
Wow. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be part of the conversation.
Well, you know, I have you on here for a very good reason. When I first met you at the mentorship so many years ago, instantly I just knew that you were a take charge, no BS kind of person. But then you have this soft side. It's a beautiful balance. This soft side of just being a sweetheart of a person who has enormous amounts of empathy, but also will also like just crush somebody's throat if you had to either help a friend or be successful. And it's a wonderful balance. So Carina, I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm honored because you have taught me a lot about some technical stuff, but I think the bigger aspect of coaching, a more important aspect of coaching is not technically what you teach people, but how you teach it and like the things like work ethic and drive and discipline and motivation and that sort of thing. And I've got a lot of that from you. So I thank you a lot for that.
Oh, well, my pleasure. I think we can both agree that the mentorship process, not just the mentorship that we went through, but just in general, you have mentors in your life that you utilize and you benefit from. And I think there's a skill to it. One is being humble enough to accept mentorship from others, but then also when you do get it, value it and utilize it to benefit you so you can benefit others. Maybe share a little bit about some other mentors in your life, maybe different phases of your life where people have come into that role, depending on what phase of life you're in, where those people came in.
Sure. So first one's hands down my parents, both of them. They have unparalleled work ethic. They are they've had huge ups and huge downs in their business life. My mom was her primary work was raising us, and then she had other things that kind of brought in money as we got older. But both of them have unending work ethic, and they continue to in their retirement, and so they're mentors on every level, on like work in terms of managing a household and a home and a family and marriage, and as professionals. Both of them were coaches to me when I was a little athlete. And then there were various coaches along the way that I remember in a positive way because of the drive and work ethic and that sort of thing that they instilled in me. And so I keep coming back to that because I think that must be the thing that is a common theme between coaches, the things that those coaches in general have brought to my life. And I say coaches because even like teachers that push you hard and don't let you slide by, those people are still coaching you to a certain degree. It doesn't have to be an athletic, a competitive thing. But
well, let's stop there for one sec, because you spoke about your parents, and my wife and I talk about this all the time, that we are just by leaders by example in our household. We are the example to my daughter about how to be treated as a woman. We are an example to my son of how a relationship and how to respect each other. And we find that there's so many different elements of life that when you see our kids evolve and they get older, you go, wow, like that's without even you didn't have to sit down and have a lesson to pass on some of those. It's just by them watching you and watching your work ethic, like you said. That's an amazing thing. And then to also see them switch from this loving, caring parent and then turn into a coach, where they have to put on a different hat for that. They do become different people when they coach. Yes,
maybe, but it's just another part of being a person that's caring for the development of every aspect of another person, whether it's a parent and a child, or a teacher and a student, a coach and an athlete, whatever it might be. And they've been the most consistent and strongest influence in all of those things. But the way that what I feel is, and what I've observed in them, and what I'm beginning to observe in my own kids who are just 6 and 10, they're like, I'm a beginner when it comes to influencing them, but they learn more by what we do and by watching us than by what we say. Like, we could never give them any lecture or comment or anything that's as powerful as the way that we act. And that's unfortunate sometimes, because if we mess up and they see that, then they can sometimes, or if we do things we're not proud of, they're going to reflect that too. They're little mirrors, and it's fascinating. So I have one thing that I have for my dad is a kind of unreasonable capacity for worry. So, and he always, if I complain or I'm worrying about something that's really not, I really shouldn't be spending so much energy on worrying about it, he says, "You poor thing, you inherited that from me." And I see a little of that in my son, that he's starting to. So the way that we behave is the thing that the people around us carry. So as long as we can try to be, well, I don't know. I mean, there's ups and downs all the time, but I think that their kind of resilience, their ability to kind of absorb. I mean, there's always ups and downs. There's always things that are good, and there's always things that we could downward spiral with. But they have a pretty strong capacity, a pretty resilience that I think is part of the way that I work and I guess live in general. But definitely, as far as the professional stuff, it's not easy to change anything or to promote growth. And so having that capacity to continue to, like, okay, well, if you get knocked down that one time, you get up and try something different. I think that's fairly important. I hope that that's part of how I am.
Oh, absolutely.
I try to have that be, but.
Yeah. And we all see that. You know, what's interesting about that is that, like you said, you can't lecture your kids and get the same results out of them just seeing and kind of just mirroring what you do. But wouldn't it be cool, you know, when we look at a professional mentor, you know, I could give you a book or a manual of what is the process for, you know, dreaming big, over delivering, being undeniable, all that wonderful stuff. But wouldn't that be really cool? It'd be corny, but wouldn't it be cool if we could do that for our kids and actually have like a tangible workbook that you could pass on to them and say, these are the elements of life that are going to lead you down the right path and give you happiness and joy. And that's really what the mentorship is. And for you to mentorship like your kids, but also your staff and everything. We do it for our staff. We do it for our friends for our professional life, but we don't do it in our personal life.
Yeah. And I think that's probably, I mean, that's tough because so much, well, I don't know. I feel like I probably still lean on my parents a ton as personal life mentors. They've been married a really long time. And so my husband's a big mentor also, because he is very level-headed, and I'm more of this like up and down, which is good. It's good that there's ups. It's good that there's downs. It's good that he's sort of there to kind of help mitigate it all. And but because my parents' marriage has been so successful despite all the ups and downs they've had, I feel like that helps us a lot.
Well, I always find that it's either the people that came from a successful kind of model. So like you came from parents that were successfully modeling what a good marriage is, or you come from the opposite, which is kind of what I had, which was the opposite was like, I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to make sure that I don't make those mistakes. So it's one or the other. It's almost like the alcoholic child, right? The child that came from an alcoholic, they either go down that path or they do the exact opposite and they're abstinent. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, Aaron's parents got separated when he was 3 or 4, and he distinctly remembers being like relieved and grateful that they weren't going to be around each other anymore. Yeah. So we sort of have total different upbringing, and it's sort of blended together.
Cool how it all works together.
Yeah.
I always say that life is a yin and yang. Yes, I'm the first person that's ever said this. By the way.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
That's so insightful.
I know it is.
My goodness.
Actually, I didn't make that up. I got it off Celine Dion, one of her albums. It was on the back cover. Anyways, the yin and yang, those
wings,
two elements, those two opposites that attract each other. That's what it's about, is like, you got to have both sides. And rarely do I ever find successful relationships, either in business or in marriage, that are the same person, like two of the same personalities.
Yes. Well, so then there's also that balance of the work kind of drive and intensity that has to be balanced with sort of like patience and different varying pace when there's, with the family life. Sometimes I find that if I am being very productive with work and I'm knocking off projects and I'm growing and I'm feeling really excited about that, I feel like this acceleration. And then it's sometimes really hard to be patient with kids that are needing to remember how to do math stuff or whatever. Like so there's sort of this, and then the flip side happens too, where like the pace or the energy with each thing is very different. Obviously they're both, all that's important part of me or of anyone, but the learning to balance that and kind of switch gears is kind of interesting.
Well, let's talk about that.
I don't know. And I'm not good at that yet.
Yeah, I know. And that's part of the mentorship process is that, trying to even just shine a light on the fact that we don't live balanced lives, and that but the important thing is that we're striving towards balance. I've found that I was the go-getter, workaholic, put in the long hours, travel a ton, and then come home and then try and shut everything down and just be the ultimate dad as possible, the best husband as possible. But there are times that you went too far one way and then not far enough the other way. And I've seen that in you as well. You being an entrepreneur, starting a business and really like putting all that on your shoulders while having a family. That is a huge responsibility, Carina. And, I absolutely, I'm really from the outside watching it. I think it's amazing what you do and what you're able to accomplish.
Well, I thank you, but I think that you and I think one of the reasons I connect so well with you and that I am able to learn so much from you is that we have this, wherever you are, you don't feel like you're there yet. So, or where you want to be yet. Like you maybe you set a goal and you get to this and then you're like, well, this is a nice step, but this isn't really where I want it to be. I want it to be bigger and I want it to be better. And that constant kind of need to kind of grow and move forward, I think, well, I don't know. I mean, I try to instill that in my kids too, but I think that that pushes that thing forward. And the other thing is that you've said before that I really buy into is that so it's okay that there's these different gears that you have to shift into. Yeah, we're looking for balance. And I think when we say we want this balanced work-life thing, what we mean is I want to be good at my job and good at parenting and be on top of like keeping my house clean and whatever. So that may be balanced if you can do all those things at the same time, but it's okay that there's not balance. It's okay that some days the home life stuff is awesome and then their work productivity isn't. And then there's other days that it's the other direction. As long as there's maybe a balance of those days. So they have some really good work days and some really good home days. And I don't know. I think that acknowledging the fact that it's okay that there's differences, that there's different things that you're good at, and you can't really be good at all of it at the same time. You try to do it all, and it's kind of like you're not good at.
It's okay, but we won't accept it. Like that's the difference. Is yes, it's okay, and we give ourselves a pass, but we're still not accepting it, because if we did, we would just become just like okay with it all. Like, and everything would just be. But there is something that makes an entrepreneur. There's an inner drive. And I kind of, the application for the mentorship helps me kind of push away people that aren't ready for this, because I realize they're not entrepreneurs and they don't have that like, you can't hold me back from trying to get this because I need it that bad. If they're kind of like, well, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Well, I'm like, okay, well then you're not an entrepreneur. Go get a job and that's fine, but this is not for you. So I need to deal with the people like yourself who's like, I want to have a perfect family. I want to have balance. I want to raise my kids beautifully. But then there's this other part of me that just wants to work from 6 a.m. till midnight just to get to that next level. So how do you handle, I call it the resistance or the frustration. How do you handle that feeling when maybe the personal life is taking you away from your driver, like what you're trying to accomplish, and you get that battle where you're stuck in between. How do you deal with that?
Go for a run with my dog.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know, lately, and I mean, maybe over the last year or so, my business has been evolving, kind of in a different path than it was initially since the mentorship for me. When I came to the mentorship, I had like these huge ideas that I was really impatient about implementing everything. And I was feeling like, and I didn't understand what the process would be to get there. And I didn't understand how long it would take or how many steps there were. I just sort of thought, well, this is a really important thing that, like you just said, it can't not happen. So, because in my world, kids have to be treated well. The way that they are trained the way that we coach them and the way that we take care of them as medical professionals has to be better. So I can't not do this. But I had no idea the ramifications of like making it physically work like it should. And it's still evolving. I mean, and it probably will always be evolving and coming and going. But so the part of the reason though, that it continues to take a long time for me to make progress on these business ideas is that I don't want to miss my kids' experiences, like their youth sports stuff or their talent shows and all that. I kind of refuse to miss that stuff, and I refuse to not coach them. And I mean, coaching baseball and soccer kind of like really drive me and make that's a big part of what makes me happy. So selfishly, and I just want to go play. So I'm not going to not do that in order to grow my business right now. If they were at a different phase in their life, I probably would. But they're little, and I want to be part of that. So,
well, I'm smiling and kind of laughing.
That's why I said it's okay that there's these different gears. It's okay that I kind of still have my professional life is not exactly how I want it to be. There's a lot that I feel kind of like I'm being held back because of some system stuff, but I'm growing in a lot of ways that I can within the system that I'm in, so that I can keep playing. Right.
Yeah, but I'm kind of laughing a little bit in the background here because I just get a flashback of you at the mentorship. You were so driven, which is a perfect name for you. So Drive is
wow. There you go. Good name for a business.
Yeah, great name for a business, right? But you came at the mentorship kind of like, here's what I want. This is what I want to accomplish, and I want to get it now. And so I'd be
tomorrow,
like, okay,
it's open. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but, and you'd be like, no buts. I want to know, like, why is this happening? And then you came back, like the next time I saw you, the next phone call I had, it was always like, that's great, Jay, but now, no, we need to do this now. And I was like, whoa, okay. And you always had that drive, and you still do, but you also have that other balance. But that's what I loved about it. That's where I saw, again, it comes back to this word, the resistance, and it comes from Steve Pressfield, his book. And I got to send you a copy of that because you're going to love it. But he talks about the resistance is this inner drive and inner desire to have success and get our skill or our craft out. But then life keeps us from actually executing it. And when you have that separation, the middle ground is that resistance. And that's when my wife says to me, you need to go for a run, or like, you're very irritable. Why are you so irritable? And she knows it's because part of me wants to be in the office creating, and the other part wants to be here right now. And I'm in neither place mentally. Right. And that's where the resistance occurs.
And so that's interesting. So is going on a run, sometimes I feel like that's really selfish of me to take the dog and go, because I feel that angst.
Yep.
And then I kind of, I'm not, like you just said, you're not really in either place. So you might as well just physically be somewhere else.
Yeah. So get a third place.
But is that selfish, and is that procrastinating?
No. What that does, Carina, this is the beauty of it. What that does is it gives you a sense of accomplishment. So when you come back, you say, at least I did that. So then when you say, at least I did that, now you kind of like suppress this need to accomplish. And now you can be present with your family.
Yep.
But then the next morning or even later on that night, it's going to creep back in that you still haven't accomplished these 17 checklists on your checklist. Yep. So,
yes.
But there is a sense of you need to accomplish something. There is that because you're accomplishment driven. And if you went up to the office and you did all your office stuff and then you went and coached, but you didn't get your run in, there would still be also that resistance. So it is very hard to find that balance.
Yeah. I think that that accomplishment thing and using exercise as a way to fill that in, because it doesn't take very much. It doesn't take very much time to, and that's a huge mental thing for me. If I'm feeling productive, and it may just mean run a mile or run it. My mom actually made it up. She called it a BTN workout, better than nothing.
Yeah.
And so when I was in high school, and she would say, you know what, you just need a lap, go run and if it's a lap around the block, you need 2 laps. Maybe you come back and you feel calmer in some way.
Yeah.
And because now you've done something with your time. Like that's the way you say, make the bed in the morning, because you feel like you've done at least that's productive and moving in the right direction.
But don't you also feel, and this kind of moves on to our next segment here, do you feel like these things build on each other? You know, when I think of who you were when you came to the mentorship and who you are now, it's almost like certain accomplishments now become the norm, and then we're constantly driving to the next one. But it's not like it's blips and then back to square one. You're always growing. And so maybe after a while, the making of the bed doesn't give you the joy of accomplishment anymore, because
right. So you have a
norm. That's what you should
do. So there's a higher level of need of something.
So
you have to check off something bigger in order to feel that.
Yeah, if you go for a 20-minute run every day, then 20 minutes isn't enough anymore. Now you need another level of accomplishment. But then if you take away that 20 minutes that is now the norm, now you got a real problem. Because
so now you're quitting cold turkey, and then that's bad.
You're not even meeting your minimum requirements now. So I feel that. And my question to you would be, do you ever see an end to this? Because I just don't know if my brain's ever going to stop. And it scares me. But when my wife and I talk about retirement or something, I'm just like, I don't know what that would be like. And am I going to drive her crazy? Well, when I'm not,
that's kind of given, I think, right?
Well, it's already happening. So yeah, I think so. But I mean, you married the male version of what I married, because the yin and yang thing, right? So yeah.
So I don't know. And from my perspective right now, I think a lot of my drive comes from a massive need to change professionally, like the content of what's going on. Like I said, I'm comfortably I'm comfortably trapped in that the system that I'm in doesn't let me be as creative or exploring and reaching and growing as I would like, but it's super safe and stable, and they're allowing me to grow sort of at this like slow pace, meaning grow the performance side of our physical therapy practice. So that's growing really slowly, much more slowly than I'd like, but it's a system that works with this balance. So I think that there's amazing power of yet. Like there's always like, and my son had just finished 4th grade, and his teacher had the word yet all over the place. So anything that you're upset about or the question that you have, you don't know yet, or you can't do that yet. And I think that that's a super powerful word, and it's okay that you have to say yet. It's okay that you don't know yet. And maybe the thing that you're driving for will change. Maybe the things that you feel like you need to accomplish will be different as you go through different phases of parenting and career development and whatever. But that's a personality trait. You have a growth mindset. That's not going to change. So if you decide to stop coaching and stop teaching and stop mentoring, or you'll always mentor in some way. You'll always coach in some way. You may not do it with the structure that you have right now, but you'll come up with another way. You're going to have grandkids at some point, and you're going to mentor and coach them in a different way than you did your kids, and you do now with your athletes. So
I think that's what yet means. I think yet means growth mindset in an essence, right?
And I feel like, so this is a fairly fresh mindset that I have, not the growth part, that's kind of been there, but the fact that it's okay that there's things you don't know. Like right now I'm diving very deep into, I'm trying with when I have chunks that I can dedicate to it. I'm trying to dive really deep into K-Motion's baseball because I'm wanting to use it with our high school program. So that's the thing I don't know yet. I can look at graphs and I can set my athletes up and I can kind of show them they need some hip shoulder separation, but I don't really have I'm not taking full advantage of what they can do yet.
Right. Yet.
I want to know it all right now, but I'm okay with this is the first time this guy's on this machine. It's okay that I'm also kind of growing with him.
Awesome.
That there's things that I don't know yet.
See,
and
that's why
you've had the strength to find your weaknesses or admit that there's things you don't know so that you can keep learning. And that's what that gives me chills. That's that's kind of it. I think at least for me, I feel like if there's the energy to grow and the energy to keep, rather than just saying oh yeah, that's something I don't know, either I suck because I don't know it, or that's just not going to be something I know, and just kind of blocking myself in, that to me is where I start to feel anxious, depressed, slowed down, and not plugged in. But if I keep sort of saying okay, well, I'm on a path and that's okay.
But that's what that's what the Mentorship Podcast is all about, is, what you just said there. And the reason why we have these conversations is that you just mentored me in that saying yet, that's going to be stuck in my brain now for the months to come. And because it's there's two sides to this coin. There's the driven part, and then there's another part of me that just wants to be a Buddhist monk and just do the same job of mow this lawn every day and make the lines perfect, or paint a room, and then when I'm finished, paint the room again. There's a part of me that also wants that, just pure simplicity, mindfulness, just do. But then there's this other part, the monkey mind, that's always constantly driving. And so, like you said, I always felt I either have to be one or the other. But now I could say, no, I just haven't reached that yet. The ability to be in what I'm doing now, but feel the joy and the simplicity of that Buddhist monk painting the room again.
And they're both important, right? I mean,
yes.
That's your opposites that are all inside your head that you need to be able to satisfy. The other thing that, in terms of if you're super crazy and busy with life and work and keeping whatever's on your plate, those things can be so overwhelming that then you forget to also mow the lawn in the straight lines and paint the room or whatever other meditative kind of activity that prioritizes you and your mind. I am terrible at putting myself first. That's probably the thing that I'm the weakest at.
I'm pretty good at
it. Well, so right now there's some dirty dishes in my kitchen. There's some dog hair all over the wooden floor downstairs that someone's going to do that. The kids are capable of helping with that stuff, and they're getting to the point where they're helping with chores. It's still on me. So I feel like I got to take care of all that. I got to take care of all the school stuff, all their school stuff, all of my work stuff. And I still haven't gone on my run today. Right. So, and that's prioritizing myself in terms of things that drive me or fill me up mentally and emotionally and spiritually, whatever. That's the kind of stuff that tends to get pushed down, and my sleep. And so, because I feel selfish if I, go to bed before my kids do.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they're little, so I should put them to bed before I get in bed, but sometimes I don't want to.
Yeah. It's harder for me with a 15 and a 20-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah. You're going to bed earlier than they are. Trust me.
Yeah.
If you want to get anywhere close to 8 hours of sleep.
Otherwise you're up till 2 a.m.
Exactly. So
right.
No, that is exactly these conversations is why I wanted to do this podcast. But I wanted to also kind of share with people, not just the humanistic part of being a business owner and being a well-balanced, or at least the attempt of being a balanced individual. But when we talk about the mentorship, and we talk about the process of overcoming obstacles on your way to your dream big, is there some things that you put in place besides, obviously you've mentioned fitness, you've mentioned kind of learning from your mentors in the past, is there anything that you're like absolute go-tos? Do you journal? Do you meditate? What do you do to that you see as pillars to you having success?
So I do a gratitude journal.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I call it that is that if it were the kind of thing where I was supposed to like write down everything that happened during the day or how I was feeling about various things, and I felt like I had to do a lot of it, I just wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that at bedtime, and I write down at least 3, sometimes more. And sometimes I do write big things, but I have like 3 things that I'm grateful for, because there will always be, even on a bad day, there'll always be things you're grateful for. Maybe it's like my coffee was brewed well. So sometimes it's little minimal things like that. And sometimes it's like, I'm grateful for my husband's patience, and that could be really big things. There are always going to be good stuff that I could focus on. There will always also in every day, even on the best days, there are things that were hard. There are always hardships, but trying to focus on and put energy into the things that I'm grateful for, then I'm hoping that will help those things grow. So I do that almost nightly. And I feel like that helps my mindset. It helps calm my mind at the end of the day. And the other thing is so that gratitude journal sort of comes from the checklist, writing things down thing that I learned from you. I also, when I'm feeling frantic about trying to accomplish too many things, if I'm trying to grow one project and then try to make sure I stay in contact with those people to make that project happen, I have to write it all down. So right. I go back to my notebook, and I love looking back at them. I love looking at like, what was I trying to do a year ago? And I don't do that on a daily basis. I do it, like I said, I do it when I feel like that day there's an opportunity, there's time and capacity to accomplish a lot. And I feel like in my head, there's too many things to try to accomplish with that hour or whatever I've got. Writing things down and make like brain dumping helps a lot.
Totally.
And then the other thing is just what I'm trying to do more of. And I think this is a reason that sometimes I get really down on myself for not making more progress. Because I don't give myself a chance to play. I don't give myself a chance to exercise or sleep well or do the things that are good for me physically and emotionally. So taking more time to do things that aren't urgent, which is mostly like, for me, it's play with my kids.
Right.
And sometimes playing with them is coaching their game. Sometimes it's take the dogs to the park. I mean, those things are important because they're not part of my agenda.
Right. Yeah. So I challenge you. I've said this 1,000 times. You need to sleep like it's your job.
Yeah, I know.
I truly challenge you to taking on that as a priority moving forward, because, there's been 1,000 articles, books, podcasts, everything about sleep, but really overall health and your just mental health and your ability to be able to perform the next day on all these things you didn't have time to sleep for. Yeah. You're going to be better at it.
Yeah. And I coach that all the time. Do you remember Brandon Marcello's talk at the last World Golf Fitness Summit? And he talked about how injury, like tons of injuries happen when the athlete slept less than 6 hours, and all kinds of dangerous things happen to people in society in general when we haven't slept enough. So obviously, and it's so undervalued. And so in addition to trying to put what I need a little bit more in front of everybody else, which feels like shallow or selfish or whatever to say that, but sleep is a big part of that. So sleeping more regularly and making sure that I have conditions that I can actually sleep well and stop waking up. All those things that's the thing that I feel like I'm trying to put as much energy as I can right now, so that so that the projects happen a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah. So just a little tip.
I can take care of me.
Yeah. You have to. But that's one of the best ways to do that. For us, we used to do the face mask sleep thing.
Yeah.
So it's dark. Yeah. Now we got the blackout blinds, so we don't need the face mask thing. And that's helped a lot. But creating that environment and then using the room as a place of sleep and that's the only place, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean, there's other things you can do in there, but the main purpose of that space is for sleep.
Yeah.
That has been very, very important to us.
Yeah.
So it's just like when you go up there, you go to sleep. Funny thing, this might make you laugh. I heard a comedian talk about this. He said, isn't it interesting when you get in a relationship with somebody and you start living together that you have to time when you're tired and ready to go to sleep? Like,
yeah.
You have to time it together, because if you go to bed together, then it's like, he goes, I didn't know that I have to go to bed at 10:30 until I was with my girlfriend and moved in with her. But I thought about that. It's got stuck in my head. Another thing that gets stuck in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, my sleep time is dictated by the time that we decided as a couple we're going to go to bed. And if you want to go to bed at the same time, that's when you go to bed. So if you and your husband decide that, yes, we're going to go to bed at the same time, and that's going to be at 10:30, guess what? You're going to bed at 10:30.
Uh-huh.
What time do you get up in the morning though?
So that depends. So for years, for maybe 5 or 6 years, my routine has been so I've always been a early morning person. I'm fairly useless and not productive after dinner, but I could do really well in the morning. So I work out at 5 in the morning for like an hour.
Wow.
And what I do has changed over the years. And that's fine, but that's always like early morning. They're all asleep. They don't notice I'm gone. But the problem with that is that if I'm going to work out at 5, I'm going to get up at 4:30. So if I'm not in bed by 8 so that I can be asleep by 8:30, then that's not enough. Right. So then I kind of would push it and be like, okay, well, I can do fine with like 6 or 7 hours of sleep. So it would be like 5 to 7 hours of sleep for long periods of time. And then every little bug that comes by makes me sick. Every little hiccup that happens during the day makes me mad. So I was getting my workouts in my time, but I'm not sleeping enough to like be healthy. So the fact that I'm exercising is good for me, but I'm not sleeping, that's not good.
Yeah.
So
that's
then
a
I
bad
started
trade-off.
to say, okay, well, my work schedule is enough that it is such that there are chunks of time kind of in the middle of the day that I can exercise. But then I would put other things in front of it, work stuff or house stuff or whatever. And I would say, oh no, I can't do my run at 9 or 10 this morning because I'm gonna whatever. So later in the day, it's easier for me to kind of just say, oh, I don't have time for my workout. So I feel like I'm still I'm balancing that. So what I'm trying to do now is, the other thing is my kids, because they're getting older and because now it's summer and it's like light till 9 o'clock at night, they don't want to go to bed early enough for me to get my morning workout in. So my goal, and if I say it to you, then I have to be more accountable.
Yeah, I'm going to hold you accountable to it.
My goal is my kids are in bed at 8:30 and I'm in bed at 9, and then I'm up at 6.
Well, that's more.
And some days I can work out then, and some days I have a patient at 7, so I can't get a 6 a.m. workout. But on those early work days, I can work out later. So
awesome.
It's evolving.
Yeah, and it's going to evolve again, because we used to love, our favorite time of day was 8:30 when the kids went to bed, and then you'd have this golden hour to an hour and a half where it's like it's just you and your husband or just you and your wife, and
which
it's
is hugely
wonderful
important.
time. And then all of a sudden, the kids take up that time. And no longer are you watching, it sounds bad, but The Bachelorette, or you're not watching TLC or some stupid show. You're not having that brain dump time. And all of a sudden it's taken up with their activities. And you're just like, you just don't have that anymore. And then all of a sudden it evolves again. And then now they don't want to hang out with you anymore. So they just disappear. Now you're left. Now you're like, well, now we can watch what we want anytime. So it is a transition. So you will get your sleep, but it hasn't happened yet.
Right. So I'm trying to grow that part of my wellness. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is what I wanted to have you on the show. Each person I have on the Mentorship Podcast, we're kind of taking some different angles based on their strengths. And what I really wanted to do was kind of put a magnifying glass on the humanistic element of you. The balance of you being one of the most driven people, one of the most go get 'em type people, but then also this amazing ability to be a mother, be a great friend, be a great wife, and all those other softer aspects. So I think you're doing a great job of balancing these things out, at least from the outside world.
I'm glad you think so.
Yeah, the people that you impart your greatness on. So I have to ask before we go, where you were when you started your dream big, where you are today. Is there anything for, let's say, somebody who's starting out on the path and someone who's maybe 10 years behind where you are today? Is there anything you want to impart on someone that's striking out in the world and making it their own right now?
So I think what you alluded to a while ago is important. So if you are even considering adopt a mentorship kind of capacity, whether you're going to go and physically be in a mentorship intensive, or you're going to just keep in contact with a person who's been a leader and a coach in your life, mentors and having coaches should not be limited to when we're in our educational and competitive careers. I think I felt like that until I kind of became involved in the SFMA and TPI and FMS kind of world, because there's so many mentors for me in that world. And I feel so much more growth with those people's influence in my life. And you are a huge part of that. You're you sort of have at least part of why I feel like I've learned so much in the last several years is because it's okay you have to find where you need to grow. And then you have to be okay with the fact that you're not there yet. And so that you can continue to grow. So I think that having mentors and continuing to be in contact with them, and so that you can prioritize the learning and the growing that you're trying to do, can help continue to push forward whatever growth you're looking for. So I feel like watching people that are doing something similar to what you want to do, asking them, if you see there's gaps between where you are and what they're doing, hearing their stories is important, because maybe their story is going to be different than how yours unfolds, but watching what somebody else has done and how long it's taken them and the ups and downs that they've been on can be hugely, if nothing else, it's like reassuring, like, oh, okay, I'm still on a path. I haven't failed. You may feel like you have found a million ways that don't work, but you still haven't failed if you're still trying. So,
right.
So I think that having coaches and mentors and using them and leaning on them and being okay with the fact that you're leaning on someone. And I mean, I think as a therapist, and maybe as a mom also, but especially in my professional world, I feel like my job is to help people feel better. It's to help them. I need to understand what their problem is. I need to figure out mechanically what's going on, and I need to fix it. So I'm always the one that's absorbing problems and helping somebody else. So it kind of, for a while, I sort of think I didn't feel like I was allowed to ask for help or allowed to lean on somebody else, because I'm supposed to be the one that's fixing things. So I shouldn't need that. But in order to grow, you have to have teachers. You have to have people that are maybe in front of you on the same path, maybe just on a different path, but that are still in that same mindset to keep pushing forward. So I think the fact that once somebody is considering a mentorship, that's already a huge part. And then the mentorship, at least our experience at Northview was in Vancouver, that's the beginning of the mentorship. That's like, okay, now we know each other. And now we have not only you, but this team of people who are additional mentors. That's where it begins. And then you continue to help each other.
Yeah. And it's also okay for those mentorship or those mentors in your life to expire as well. When you graduate to a different phase. Like, luckily the two of us have been on a similar path, and that they paralleled each other. So we continually have to bounce ideas back and forth and continue to grow. But I think that there's some people that, will come to mentorship, get what they want out of it, and then just be fine. And they just move on. Other people need to continue that process, and not because they need to, but just because they're continuing to see value in that. But I think you're absolutely right. You do not need to have a mentorship or a mentor that is in your field. This year, I took on a mentor in the world of comedy. And because I just felt like I wasn't growing as fast as I possibly could. So I took on a comedy mentor, and it's been fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah. It's helped me grow immensely, just having a sounding board to play off of. And sometimes it's like sometimes you feel as a mentoree, you feel like you're burdening them by
exactly. Yes.
by asking them and checking in on them, or but then
Yeah.
you realize, you're a mentor to others, and you realize how much joy they get out of that. And you just got to do it.
Yeah, no, I feel like that all the time. I feel like I'll start to tell someone about something that's frustrating, or something like a roadblock that I have. I'm like, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to deal with my problem. But when people around me have a problem or a need, I want more than, please bring it. I want to be there. I want to help. But then those kind of people also need sounding boards. And so it doesn't have to, I think mentors and coaches are important. I don't think it has to be the same person for any length of time. So I have mentors that were like going through my educational process. I had people that taught me tons and tons about research and like how to ask questions and how to figure out how to get good answers to your questions. And that was hugely important at that part of my life, because that was when I was in grad school and doing research. And now that is a friend, but I'm learning in other ways. But
absolutely.
But
No,
the concept of like, let's be okay with having there be I hope that I continue to, and I'm trying to be better about this. It's okay to lean on people and get other people's experience and perspective to help you forward. It's not selfish.
It's not selfish at all, because what you have to remember is the people that accept mentorship or to become a mentor, they do that because of the joy that they get out of seeing somebody grow and succeed. Yeah, so absolutely. By not asking them is also taking away their joy. I like to think of it that way. So when one of my pet peeves is when a mentoree says to me, I wanted to ask you a question, but I didn't because I know you're busy. Yeah. Like, I'm busy. I'm busy. That's what I want to be busy doing. I'd rather be busy helping you and having this conversation, because when I give you advice, I'm giving myself advice. I'd rather be honestly, doing that than the other crap that I'm going to do when I'm being busy.
Well, and this conversation, me saying these things out loud and sharing this, hopefully to help somebody, but it helps me a ton.
Of course,
so there's this concept of you've heard about like filling people's buckets. Like they're like, and I think it's a way to describe like emotional interactions for kids. And this, at least I learned it when my kids were little, that everybody has this emotional bucket, and it can either like get filled or it can dump out depending on what happens around them. And if you treat somebody like crap, your bucket's going to empty, and obviously their bucket's going to empty. But if you're doing something great for somebody, your bucket gets filled up, their bucket gets filled up. So fill a bucket. And it's hard for me to remember that. And that's just one of these, it's amazing how much we can learn from children's literature. I feel like that kind of concept of like, it's okay to do something good for yourself, because then the people around you are going to benefit from it.
I love it. There's no better way to finish this podcast, Carina. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. You're such a humble person. Thank you for having me. Well, you're so humble. You said to me, why would you have me on the show? And I'm like, because that's what the show is about. It's exactly about what you just did. And you couldn't have done a better job. So thank you for being on the show. But more importantly, thank you for being a mentor of mine, and continually being that sounding board for me when I have new ideas or a new concept that I think's crazy, or I need help. And you're like, yes, you do. And here's where you're going to get it. Just you've been so great, and I'm very blessed to have you in my life. So thank you so much.
Likewise, I feel so grateful to be part of a group of people that you feel like you lean on to get some kind of support or assistance. And please, like, shoot more ideas at me. I feel like the more interactions like this that we have, the more I grow, and the more we both grow, and more, please.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
That's what the mentorship's all about. And I'm so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Carina, thank you so much.
Cheers.